Good evening. I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to be talking about how to write about faith and sexuality. Now, if you're not familiar with our other webinars, we have a whole suite of different services that we offer at the Writing Center. You can always send us an email at onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu. You can go to my.acu.edu and under the drop-down resources, select Online Writing Center and follow the instructions to schedule an appointment. You can also find recordings for webinars like this through our website or our YouTube channel. But for the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about how to write about some very important things in your life and potentially in your work, especially if you happen to be in the marriage and family therapy program from which our example assignment is drawn. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at an example course and course website. So we are looking today at the sexual therapy course. Now, this is in our MFTO program, and we look at a Christian-oriented implementation of contemporary sexual therapy in both formal and informal settings. And this is something that both in the public consciousness and in the realm of understanding how body, mind, and relationships are interconnected, where things have grown and diversified. And so the treatments have, in many cases, become just as diverse as people draw on multiple fields of knowledge. So let's go ahead and take a look at a sample assignment. So this is the week 7, the culminating assignment, spirituality and sex therapy. And if we look at the instructions C, we have a brief preamble. While our faith is important to us, it can instill some elements of fear and shame when it comes to sexuality. Whenever you see a preamble like that, I would suggest thinking about ways to revisit that thought in a paper, because if the person writing the assignment put that in there, that's probably something they think that is worth thinking about, writing about, and discussing. And then we have the instructions proper. For this assignment, you will choose 3 resources, integrate and cite the resources to provide academic support to the 3 to 5 page paper that addresses the following prompts. Now, 3 to 5 pages is going to be roughly 750 to 1250 words. And in that space, you want to describe how you will practice sex therapy in the context of your spiritual beliefs, how it will be informed or shaped by that with these specific questions. And then how will you practice self-care as a therapist with these specific questions? And then, of course, you want to be writing in APA style, have sentences that are clear, make sense, where the organization helps convey an argument, and other general quality things. If we take a look at the rubric here, it is basically saying all those things we're looking at above, but it's always a good thing to check, because here, note this: how will you practice self-care as a therapist? That's this part here. But note that the grading here, out of those 4 points, it's also going to explaining struggles in relation to self-care. That's this first part here. And then possible solutions. So while it does say, if so, what are some possible solutions? This is suggesting that you should be looking at yourself and to really look at ways that you anticipate potentially struggling. Or if that's not the case, being very clear about why you won't struggle and what you will do to address things so that you won't struggle. So solutions can be proactive. Now, this paper, I think, is a great one for our talk here, because we are on the topic of writing about faith and writing about sexuality. And there are some things that you will very likely be doing there that you might not be doing in your other assignments. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab these instructions and we're going to open up a copy of our APA course paper template, and we'll talk through the different ways you might phrase and format your remarks, your observations, your arguments based on APA style, based on this assignment. And for more on that, I think let's show as well as tell. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a copy of our APA course paper template. You should see that on your screen right now. And you'll see that if you grab our regular one, it comes with some comments explaining how to do things. Now, if you used our template before, you probably don't need to listen to my explaining things. You can go to review, select delete all comments in the document. There, they're gone. Now, you can also go ahead and for this particular assignment, the instructions don't require an abstract, so we'll remove the abstract page. And then you can take this placeholder text that just shows the formatting, and we'll go ahead and delete that. And we'll also take out the placeholders for the references section. More on that in a little bit. So if we are starting with the instructions here, we have a list of requirements. So we know we need 3 resources. They can be any type of media, from textbooks to journal articles to videos and podcasts. And we need to use those as part of our argument that does these things. And we'll just add a little formatting so we've got the hierarchy clear. So got the 2 main questions. Now, if you were to approach this and start with the description, great. It's important that you tell us that this is about you. And in this case, we'll just go ahead and we'll bold the original prompts to distinguish things that you're writing versus the prompts themselves. So I will practice sex therapy. And you could say in the context of your spiritual beliefs, but this is your opportunity to start identifying what you're going to be doing. And depending on your case, that could be, I will practice sex therapy that is agnostic of my spiritual beliefs. You could say that is strongly informed. Or you could say that takes into account both my and my clients' spiritual beliefs and all sorts of other different variations. But I want to emphasize here that this is using I statements. It's clarifying that this is what you will do, what you plan to do. And in APA style, for many years now, we're in APA 7th edition, APA 6th edition before that also had this. You use I statements to clarify that you did a thing, and when you're describing your beliefs, your practices, your actions. So having I will practice sex therapy and then whatever tells us that you're doing that. And that's perfectly a-okay in APA style. What you don't want to do is to have writing like, well, the sex therapist will practice. I'm like, well, hold on, which sex therapist? All, some, many, some who look like you? It's not clear. So I resolves that. Now, for any of these, it's important that you give supporting examples. After all, this is supposed to be a 3 to 5 page paper. So you can, when you are planning this out, you can say, okay, I know I need some examples, so let me give myself a reminder that I need to make those decisions, collect that information. And when you're looking at your areas of concern, you can also see, okay, well, what are my major concerns? And what are my minor concerns? Now, I don't know what will be on your particular list, but if we're just look at the realm of what, say, appeared in the New York Times this morning, you will find that they have things about topics like polyamory, which I would say has a whole bunch of different concerns that may come up with this, regardless of your feelings or regardless of legal or what you believe is ethical there. That is something that can come up with a client. Different religion. Now, different religion is the kind of thing where you want to be specific about that, because you could mean, well, I'm Catholic, they're Lutheran, or I'm evangelical, they're Presbyterian. So be more specific. Are we talking interdenominational Christian, Christianity, and not Christian. And other things. You might find common cause with the different Abrahamic religions, so Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Baha'i, perhaps. So these are your concerns. Now, how would you, besides note taking, how would you indicate that? Well, again, we want to center this first on yourself or your practice. So either of these would be appropriate to have. One of my major areas of concern is, and then whatever it is, or I have significant concerns working with polyamorous clients because I believe that, and then whatever it is, I could say here, many of the now this writing about what you believe and why and how this will or will not come up or how you anticipate it being a potential area of concern. This is something that comes up in many fields. There are lawyers who are defending clients who have done things that they find egregious. There are patients who might want a medical procedure that the doctor believes is ill-advised or dangerous or unethical to pursue. And many other examples as well, including teaching things on the curriculum that may not align with your particular beliefs. And so we here, it's less a matter of does the person grading this paper agree with you so much as have you given a well-rounded and clear description and argument, including why these things are concerned and for you. And in this address these concerns, do you have a plan for addressing that? Now, I don't know what your plan will be when you run into a conflict. Some therapists and physicians and other people who find themselves in this situation will refer to someone else when they run into this conflict. So, for example, there is a small realm of things where in this day and age, you might actually have electroshock therapy. Now, electroshock therapy has a very bad reputation because it was used as a uh, unfortunate and ultimately ineffective cure-all for many psychiatric disorders, where they would just zap people's brain, and uh, people tend to not complain so much after they've been electrocuted in the brain, but not actually being cured or, I would say, helped. Now, there are a small realm of therapies where it's been found to be very effective and is still used. But even if you are a practicing psychiatrist uh, who has been trained on how to do this, you may not want to do it for a variety of reasons, including your believing that it's ineffective for that particular thing. So that's where that would come up in this, how will you address these concerns? So let's just say that for the sake of argument, we're talking about, let's say non-Abrahamic faiths. All right. Well, if you're writing about that, so you might have something along the lines of, when working with couples from non-Abrahamic faiths, I will first state up front that I am working through a Christian lens, and that some of the suggested therapies or whatever you're mentioning Now, when you're writing these, some of this will be just your beliefs, but some of it may also be grounded in the literature. And a good argument is one that reflects your personal experiences and beliefs and is grounded in the literature. So if you're writing about that, then you might have something where you say, as recommended by author date, which is a good time for us to seg to looking at the resources in this class. So let's take a look back at this course. Now, if we're to go peek at the syllabus, you would find that we have a variety of documents here. And if we're looking at the different sources for the reading here, we find that there are, for example, these different books here. So if you are working with patients who have things that show up in the DSM, you would, of course, want to be citing the DSM. So you might start by selecting this and copy and pasting this into your references section. All right, well, let's take a look at that. Now, the syllabus will save us some time copying things, but you always want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that, for example, the title is italicized, that the edition is noted, this text revised here, that's not something you'd include in APA style. The ISBN also would not be included. But if you were citing this, let's say couples who yell during meetings. Okay. Now, if I check that, that's from 2022. So here I'm saying, oh, here's the situation that I'm working in. Here's the action I will do. And the action is based on this. Now, you might contrarily also indicate you do something that is contrary to the recommendation. I will and then give your reasons. Now, where this sometimes happens with this assignment is people will cite reasons that are coming from their own belief. So you might have a reference to scripture that you make, for example, to back it up or show this is where this is coming from. Now, if we look back at that syllabus, at the different materials for this course, of course, there are other materials, but we've just been looking at one book. If you are citing a chapter from this, remember that you need to list the chapter author as well as the editors. And let's go ahead and take a look on YouTube to talk through how you would cite a source from that. So let's just do a search for sexual therapy. And let's say that you were citing this particular video here from the Ohio State Medical Center, because it's a great illustration here. Before we've clicked through anything else here, you will see that they indicate that the speaker is Claire Postel. And often people will list Claire Postel as the author in the field. And that's actually not correct for this particular example. But if we're looking at this one here, where the speaker is Katie Morton, it would be correct to list her as the author. Because in APA style, when you're listing the author for a YouTube video, you list the channel name. In this case, the speaker, Katie Morton, and the channel name happen to be the same. But for this video here, we would actually list Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. So let's take a look at those two and how they would appear. And by the way,
it's always meant more to be a Buckeye.
By the way, if you are looking at how to cite a YouTube video,
Combination.
sorry about that. If you are looking for how to cite this, you can always go to the APA style website. That's apastyle.apa.org and go to reference examples. And if we search down under the audiovisual, we'll find that YouTube actually has its own category here. So citing a YouTube video, we see that's the channel name, the year, the month, the day, title of the video, the word video in square brackets, the platform name, that's YouTube. If you're citing Vimeo, for example, that would be there instead of YouTube, and then a link there. So if we go to this video here, actually, this is not the video we wanted exactly. Here we are. All right, so we want to get a link for this video. So we click on share, and you can copy this. And now when we go back to our Word document, we know this is going to go under Ohio. So that'll be after this. And we can type in Ohio State Wexner Medical Center. That's the name of the channel. And then the date. Well, let's take a look at what that date is here, because where it appears has varied from version of YouTube to different version. So if we're looking at this here, we click on show more. Now it tells us April 30th, 2018. That's what we want to have listed, April 30th, 2018. It's going to be in a slightly different order. So here, 2018, the year goes first, then April, then 30, period. Now the title of the video is going to be whatever it is there. Now, in this case, if we just copy and paste that, go ahead and select keep text only, and then we add some italics, and we add the word video. And yes, it is a little redundant to have Ohio State Medical Center here when we kind of have that, plus the word Wexner, in the author field. But what we are doing is we are accurately conveying what is listed as the title here. So even though it seems a little redundant, because that is the title, accuracy overrides the redundancy. So we have in this all the information that someone would need to find this video. We have the name of the channel. We have the date that it was published, down to the day. We have the title. We have a note that's a video. We have a link to it directly on YouTube. Awesome. So what about the other video that we were talking about? Well, that is going to be a little bit different, not in how we approach it, but just in what information goes where. So here again, we're going to click on show more, and we can see, okay, Katie Morton is not just a speaker name, it's also the name of the channel. And this was posted on December 7th, 2016. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back. And in this case, that's going to go alphabetically in between these two. Katie Morton, year, that's going to be 2016. December, spell out the whole month. 7th, period. Then the title is, what is sex therapy? Now, this is starting to get a little interesting in terms of the capitalization, because in this particular example here, the only thing that's capitalized besides the first word there is a proper noun. But this here, well, we have the title here, the video, and we want to format that in sentence case, which is the same way we would format it in a regular sentence. So even though sex therapy is in all caps in the original, we're actually going to change that to lowercase per APA style rules. Also, this will, per sentence case rules, that will be capitalized. And therapist and sexologist, since those aren't proper nouns here, would be lowercase. And then we need video in square brackets, and we need a link. And again, you can get that link from the share button on YouTube. And there we go. Now, if we were citing this for one of our arguments here, we would use the channel name, whatever it is. So even though if this is a book, we'd have Morden 2016. We're using the whole channel name. So Katie Morden 2016 in this case. And then whatever it is. Now, if you're quoting it, well, let's go take a look at a brief snippet here. So let's say that we are looking at this video and you've watched it before and you want to find something quickly. Well, we could turn on closed captions so you can see that text here.
I'm going to talk about sexology and sex therapy. There's a difference, I guess.
Now, you can also look at this and see what else is available here. So if you look at this, you can see, okay, there are annotations available. All right, we got this turned on. Looking at the captions here, sometimes there'll be a transcript available. So you can click on this button here, show transcript. And this is really helpful because it actually gives you the timestamps of when they're talking. So you can see between 019 and 024, they say this. So if you wanted to cite a specific thing, and let's just say that here, 2 minutes, 26 seconds, they're emphasizing the importance of the whole being, and we want to list that specific range, then we're going to need the channel name, Katie Morden, the publication year, 2016, and then the time range there. So what would that look like? Well, let's say for sake of our argument here that this we're referring to this range here. That's 219 to 237. 219 to 237. Okay. So when we go back here, and this will look slightly weird just because of how the YouTube channel names go. As Morden noted, where did that come from? Oh, Katie Morden 2016. And it is important to take a history and to look at the patient's sexuality in the context of their whole being. Okay, and then you want to give the timestamp. Is it required when you're paraphrasing or summarizing? No, it's only required when you're directly quoting, but sometimes you want to be very specific about that because it's something you're discussing in detail and you want your reader to find that. Okay, so we said that we're going to refer that 219 to 236. And so here's what we have. We have the starting timestamp and the ending timestamp. Now, if you are quoting that, then we would have probably write it out as this. So it's Morden, and then here we have our citation. And then you have this question about whether the phrasing is actually what you want. And we'll talk about that in a moment after we get the citation formatting here. So 219 to 225. So the timestamp here will go within the sentence, meaning before that period, but after the quotation marks. Now, there's something of a tone issue if you have this we and I, and it's not you. And in fact, there are very limited circumstances where you're allowed to use we in APA style. But what you can do is use an explanatory note in square brackets to mark a substitution. Therapists should And so it's indicating, well, this isn't the original source, but we're adding it for clarity. Therapists should do a quick history, and here we can align that with ellipses and try and get as much as information as possible about their unique sexuality. So we're indicating that something was changed there. So what this does, it helps us integrate this into the rest of the paragraph. As Morton noted, therapists should do a quick sex history and try and get as much information as possible about their unique sexuality. You might even go and have something like this. They're meaning the patient's unique sexuality. And so here is how you're able to adjust the tone to still use those quotes in support of your argument, but change that personal reference there to something that is more in line with the rest of your argument here. So we've talked about how to refer to your belief. We've talked about how to refer to your faith and documents there and to other sources that you accessing. And so now let's turn back to the other item in our topic here, writing about faith and sexuality. And this is something where I often get questions from students about whether they need to censor themselves, use euphemisms. And in APA style, it emphasizes directness and clarity about what you're referring to. Now, with that in mind, my recommendation for anything would be make sure people know what you're talking about. And that's probably going to involve more direct references than euphemisms. So if you were saying, well, the clients report to me that they did the nasties 3 times, well, without wanting to be crass, it will be much more clear to all parties if you said, oh, that they had sex 3 times, because then there's no doubt about what went on. And that allows you to focus on, okay, what is the plan for therapy here? As opposed to your reader wondering, wait, are they referring to what I think they do? And this is especially important if you have a multicultural context, because even just around the United States, I'll just say there are lots of different euphemisms for things that people from other regions don't necessarily think of first. So just be as direct as possible. Don't worry about embarrassment. This is something that will come up in therapy, and whether you find your own things in personal practice that you find are unambiguous, or you just identify something right away, clearly, directly, it gets better with practice. And in the writing, you just want to be as clear and direct as possible. So I promised a briefer, around 30-minute webinar. So let us wrap up by saying, if you have any questions, feel free to email onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu. You can go to my.acu.edu to schedule an appointment, visit the Online Writing Center website to find links to other webinars, download templates, and other things like that. And with that, I bid you good evening, good night.